On August 3, 1909, police received a visit from a woman who claimed to have information about a strange house in the area. According to rumors, the owner of the residence had murdered someone and buried the body in the backyard. An officer went to the location, but entry was denied. Without the necessary documentation, he could not legally force his way inside the house. Inside the residence, several people were consuming alcohol and drugs without any form of control. Among them was John Lawson, or as he called himself, Pazuzu Algarad, who used his own home as a place for gatherings, if they can even be called that. He seemed to do everything possible to turn himself into an urban legend. At a certain point, his actions crossed the line between fantasy and reality, resulting in the murder of 2 people. The condition in which the house was found after the crimes was deeply disturbing. John Alexander Lawson was born on August 12, 1978 in Danville, Illinois, United States. He was the only child of Timothy and Cynthia Lawson. He lived there for 2 years before the family moved to North Carolina. By 2nd grade, John was already showing problems. He failed the year and had to repeat it for not meeting his teacher's expectations. When he was 8 years old, his parents divorced, and John remained living with his mother, Cynthia, in North Carolina. At the age of 12, his mother remarried a man named John Lou James, and the family moved to 2749 Nine Rivers Drive in Clemens, a house that would later become unrecognizable. At 13, John began consuming alcohol. He already suffered from anxiety at the time, and alcohol may have been used as an attempt to control that feeling. His parents' divorce process may also have contributed to the increase in consumption. At certain points, John was drinking more than 10 cans of beer per day, some of them even inside school. This was an extremely high amount for someone so young and with no source of income, which suggests that his parents somehow allowed access to alcohol, whether by taking it from the refrigerator or pantry. As far as everything indicates, this behavior was not punished, and things only worsened from there. During 9th grade, after failing 3 times, John dropped out of school and abandoned his studies. He then began transforming his appearance and spent most of his time on the streets. Eventually, he discovered drugs and began using them. He also started selling drugs to make money. Around the same period, John developed an interest in Satanism and occultism, allowing these themes to dominate much of his life. In 2002, he legally changed his name to the one he would later become known by, Pazuzu Algarad. In Sumerian mythology, Pazuzu is the king of the wind demons, son of the god Hanbi. The choice of this name, combined with his future behavior, points to signs of narcissism. The change in his appearance and personality was noticeable to everyone around him. He covered his body with tattoos, including his face. He split his tongue in half to resemble a serpent's tongue and filed down his teeth until they became sharp. Pazuzu did everything he could to make his appearance as aggressive as possible. During this transformation, for reasons that are not entirely clear, his mother divorced once again. Her husband left the house, leaving her alone with her son. Pazuzu was a deeply troubled young man, displaying clear signs that something was seriously wrong with his mental state. Sometime after his mother's second divorce, he locked himself inside the house, spending little to no time outside. He also refused to bathe or brush his teeth, claiming that the dirt granted him magical protection and other imaginary powers. Pazuzu also claimed to be able to manipulate the weather, although he never demonstrated this ability. Eventually, his mother took him to a doctor, where he was diagnosed with agoraphobia and schizotypal personality disorder, in addition to severe alcohol dependence. Agoraphobia is an anxiety disorder in which the individual fears and avoids places where a panic attack might occur, especially situations where escape or help might not be available. It's a chronic condition that can last for years or even a lifetime. Schizotypal personality disorder is characterized by severe difficulty forming close relations outside immediate family. Individuals with this condition are capable of interacting with others, but often prefer not to. There is no cure, but treatment is possible. Pazuzu was prescribed medication, but unfortunately it was misused. He abused the substances, mixing them with other drugs and alcohol, which can be even more damaging than not taking them at all. Likewise, the professional psychological follow-up that would have been necessary was never properly maintained. Pazuzu grew up seemingly alone and without any form of rules. Judging by his actions and behavior, even while living with his mother, there was no effective influence strong enough to restrain or correct his conduct. In fact, many of his actions appear to have been encouraged. For his so-called satanic rituals, Pazuzu claimed he needed a sacrifice, and his mother would buy him a live rabbit during the full moon. According to him, consuming the animal's heart would give him strength and supernatural powers. Despite his conditions, the young man was constantly surrounded by people. Over time, he turned his house into a gathering place for individuals like himself, drug addicts, troubled youths, and people who had failed to fit into society. Inside the house, there were no rules. Vandalism, nudity, and drug use occurred freely and without judgment. People relieved themselves on the floor among dogs that did the same, while loud music played constantly, completing the chaotic environment. Pazuzu also had what he referred to as brides in the plural. His main partner was named Amber Nicole Birch, known by her friends as Bubbles. She followed him everywhere, consuming bird blood with him in cemeteries and participating in acts of self-harm inside the house. Another of his brides was Crystal Matlock, who eventually also became one of his main partners. Pazuzu treated these relationships as if they were some kind of competition or level progression. He appeared obsessed with Charles Manson and attempted to create his own version of a family. Visitors soon became permanent residents, drawing the attention of neighbors. Orgies, rituals, and vandalism took place daily inside the house. His mother, Cynthia, remained isolated in her bedroom, leaving the rest of the house entirely to Pazuzu and his friends. It is difficult to say whether she also suffered from some condition or whether she had simply given up trying to control her son and her own home. Without supervision or rules, Pazuzu's behavior escalated, and the chaos, disguised as freedom, would demand its price in the future. At the front door, symbols and warnings made it clear that this was not a conventional residence. The messages openly expressed contempt for authorities and the law. One sign stated that no one wearing a badge could enter, comparing police officers to a gang. Another message claimed that native people were allowed to enter, stating that the land belonged to them, a reference to indigenous peoples. It ended by saying that if the state could create laws, then he could as well. These messages were displayed alongside an inverted cross, a piracy symbol, and a phrase stating that evil would prevail. In 2003, Pazuzu was arrested for driving under the influence. In 2008, he was arrested for theft. He spent little time in prison for either offense. In many conversations with friends, Pazuzu claimed to have killed people. Due to his constant intoxication and the exaggerated nature of his stories, no one seemed to believe him, and many of these claims did indeed be lies. However, not all of them were. In July 2009, the car of Joshua Wesley was found unlocked in a parking lot. Joshua himself was missing. There is little information about this period, but willingly or not, he eventually arrived at Pazuzu's house. Joshua was married and had a child. He had previously been arrested for drug trafficking, had lost his job, and was struggling even more to find employment. At some point, Pazuzu shot Joshua in the head without any clear reason. Joshua did not survive. His body was moved to the basement, and Pazuzu openly told friends that there was a dead man downstairs. Unfortunately, no one believed him at the time. With severe injuries to his body, the remains of Joshua were buried in a shallow grave in the backyard of the house. The blood-stained weapon used in the killing was later displayed by Pazuzu as if it were a trophy. The following month, a neighbor went to the police to report that there was a dead body inside the house. An officer went to the residence and questioned Pazuzu whether there was someone dead inside and if he could enter to take a look. Both requests were denied, and the officer left the property. Several other complaints were made in the months that followed, but the police showed little interest in opening a formal investigation. In October 2009, Tommy Dean Welch had plans to meet his brother, but decided to stop at a gas station first. There, he encountered Amber, who convinced him to go to Pazuzu's house. After arriving, while the man remained seated on the couch, Amber approached him from behind, took a rifle, and fired a single shot to his head. He died instantly. His body was later buried on the property in another shallow grave. By that point, everything had long been out of control, yet Pazuzu appeared immune to rules or supervision. One of his partners at the time secretly recorded conversations and managed to obtain a confession from Pazuzu regarding the crime. The recording was handed over to the police, who then secured a warrant to search the house. However, even with cadaver dogs, the search failed and nothing was found. The following year, Pazuzu's mother went to the police, accusing her son of attacking her by grabbing her neck. Days later, she withdrew the accusation herself. Despite being firmly on law enforcement's radar, Pazuzu showed no interest in controlling his behavior. In fact, it only escalated. Messages and satanic symbols were written on the walls using his own blood. Amber also assaulted Pazuzu's mother, yet no further reports were made to the authorities. In October 2014, the spiral of chaos finally came to an end. During one of the gatherings at the house, Pazuzu approached a friend and asked him to kill one of the people present. The man refused, became alarmed, and left. The following day, he went to the police. This time, the case was taken seriously. The witness was a former military serviceman and war veteran, which may have contributed to the investigation gaining traction. On October 5, 2014, a second search was carried out at Pazuzu's residence. The occupants were removed so investigators could work properly. The odor inside the house was described as a mixture of urine and death. In certain areas, the accumulation of trash was so severe that it was impossible to see the floor. Thousands of flies, broken furniture, and garbage filled the space. In the backyard, investigators discovered two shallow graves. The bodies were in such an advanced state of decomposition that it took time for forensic experts to determine what they were examining. The remains were later identified as Tommy Welch and Joshua Wester. Pazuzu, his mother Cynthia, and Amber were taken to the police station. During questioning, Pazuzu denied committing the crimes, while Amber confessed. Cynthia admitted she had been present in the house the entire time and had witnessed one of the bodies being buried, but failed to report it, claiming she did not want to interfere with her son's beliefs. She left the station without facing charges. Amber was convicted of homicide, complicity, robbery, and concealment of a body, receiving a sentence of 39 years in prison with possible release in 2045. Months later, Crystal Matlock, another of Pazuzu's partners, was also convicted of conspiracy and complicity and sentenced to 3 to 4 years in prison. On October 28, 2015, at approximately 3 a.m., Pazuzu Algarad was found unconscious in his jail cell while awaiting trial. There was a severe injury to his wrist, and prison staff were unable to explain how it occurred. At 4:20 a.m., he was officially pronounced dead. He spent his entire life without rules or limits, and when he finally realized they existed, he chose not to face them. The lack of treatment for his condition, combined with a lifetime of unchecked behavior and substance abuse, ultimately cost the lives of 2 innocent people. After the case, the house was declared uninhabitable by the state, later demolished, and the land put on sale. Pazuzu Algarad died at the age of 37 before standing trial for his crimes. None of his claimed supernatural powers appeared to work in the face of real consequences.